All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey, it's the Rebel Taxi Pizza Party podcast. I'm Pan Pizza. Who are you people? Except I'm not. I'm Adam from You for a Movie Sucks, and this is Sardonicast. I lied. I'm sorry.
I'm Ralph from youtube.com/Ralph the Movie Maker.
And I'm Alex from IHE. And I'm feeling pretty soulful today. Tell you what.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm
too.
I'm
about you guys?
Feeling great. Soulful is the right word for how I'm feeling. We're all very energetic and happy. So about that new Pixar movie coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Soul.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was a thing. You just reminded me.
It's called Soul.
Yeah, like Korea, the capital.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess it could have a few different meanings.
They're making their first ever Korean film.
Yeah.
Oh, snap.
That would have been a twist if you thought it was going to be
Soul.
about like. Yeah, the first third of the trailer was like that good part, and then the second third it becomes Inside Out 2. But then the third part they go to Korea.
They go another layer.
Yeah, another layer of soul.
And it's actually just Koreans inside of everyone's soul.
Exactly.
And then the play on words would work really well.
Exactly.
What'd you think about the trailer?
We went down that tirade because I don't have anything to say about it.
Oh. You know, it's so sad because, like,
Oh, really?
the first half of the trailer, I was so on board. I was like, yeah, this seems like a bit of a new direction. This actually seems like it has like
different.
some personality, you know? And then, nope, it looks like it's just another Inside Out thing going on. It's like, oh, this
It
just
seems
looks like
more
another
grounded.
Pixar thing.
Yeah, it's like, do they want to sell merch that bad? So they have to create like a little plushie? So the main character just becomes like a plushie.
At least it's original, though. I have been
Is it?
upset they've been making nothing but technically. I've been upset these past few years. They've been making nothing but Incredibles 2, Monsters Inc. prequel, remake.
Yeah.
It was
whatever.
Coco, at least.
Coco was very good. That's probably the best thing they've made in a long time.
Yeah,
But
probably in a
yeah,
while.
this looks like Inside Out.
Outside
And
in.
probably has the same structure. Yeah,
It's a
Outside
weird
In.
way to do it, for
And it
sure.
probably has the same structure as like the rest of these movies that they have.
Yeah.
A buddy road trip kind of thing, buddy adventure.
Oh, yeah, because they have that other one coming out. What's
What was that one called? It's like Onward.
It doesn't
I
even
think
look
it's
like
Onward.
Yeah, Onward. Yeah. It doesn't even look like a Pixar
Really?
movie. It looks like a Disney movie more so.
I didn't hear much about that.
Everybody is saying that one looks like shit. I don't know. I might be excited for that one. I'll give it a chance. It looks like it could be fun. It looks like a different like change of pace for like a Pixar movie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's like an adventure buddy thing, but I don't know.
And the like fantasy angle.
Yeah.
Sort of like that Netflix movie Bright. You know, with this like the fantasy elements in like a real world sort of.
That's
It's like, yeah, because they're on like they have like a block of houses and they're all very like modern and they wear jeans and stuff, but they're like elves or whatever.
yeah. I don't know. I prefer kind of like fantasy universes, you know? I get so bored when it's just like, oh, human beings. Am I right?
But that's what was selling me on this Soul trailer though at first. I
mean,
thought
yeah,
the
that
way
too.
the film looked up until the point where it just becomes Inside Out. It's like, wow, this could be really cool if it's one of those kind of almost like Woody Allen, like the city is a character type thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's definitely the impression I was getting at first. It is just a trailer too. It could mostly be that.
Yeah, we
and I
could
hope
be
it is.
overinterpreting.
Yeah.
We'll see
It
what
was a
it's
strange
like.
choice to do it that way, though. I guess they got to just release more trailers, but I mean, it still might be good. I mean, we have a bit of a rep on like, especially on our Reddit, like it's just Pixar hate and Cool Cat. That's like the two topics.
Yeah.
And I don't like hate Pixar. They just had some kind of weak output the past 10 years compared to the previous 10.
And that's more disappointing. Because, especially me, I've had such a connection to them. I grew up with those movies. Like, I think they're all great. And now it's like, they're really just trying to capitalize off them. Almost nostalgia bait with some of them. And it's like, kind of soulless.
Ah,
Soulless.
got him.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
I don't know. I think it's just a lot of creative people just are not either doing the same things or working at Pixar anymore.
Do you also think, though, it's partially because we recognize the Pixar formula now? You know, these new kids growing up on these movies might love them the same way we would the older ones.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, yeah. But I mean, like, it's not just Pixar certainly has a formula, but you could say that that's true for like any kids movie at the same time. Like a lot of these things are really formulated, but still I feel as though a lot of their original works had much more of a personality, were better written, like less conveniences. Yeah. Toy Story 2, it was like a new story. It wasn't just like a recycling of the first film. Still,
right.
Cars,
like
Bugs
Coco.
Life, I don't think those are great. Like, those are the earlier ones, but they had a lot of good hits in there, too.
Yeah. And their duds weren't as bad. Like Cars 3, Cars 2. Good Dinosaur. I still haven't seen that.
I think Cars 2 is the worst thing they've done.
Good Dinosaur is so sad. It
was sad, that film. Especially with how much I love dinosaurs. I was hyped for that one. I was like, for real? Pixar making a movie about dinosaurs? This is going to be great. And it was like, this is the most boring film. God,
yeah.
It was dull. Like,
was it a buddy adventure movie?
It was
no,
nothing.
It was like a...
Oh,
it was
okay.
it was the like tragedy thing, right? Didn't the like main character's like parent die and then they had to go on a journey or something?
Oh, it's like
sort of, but with dinosaurs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
the dinosaur goes with him.
And no charm, because it was when they first nailed like the photorealism. So they had this strange art direction where they had like this incredibly realistic looking environment. With,
that was another trailer that really pissed me off.
Dinosaurs. Yeah,
I had the same
Strange
experience as the
choices all
Soul
around
trailer.
The dinosaurs looked very toyish.
Yeah,
where you first see the silhouette.
Probably for a reason.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, they're actually going to do something cool. And then no, it's like, yeah, it's a kid's movie. Oops. Sorry.
We never spoke about Toy Story 4, did we, speaking on a Pixar?
Yeah,
I don't think
never
Ralph saw it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I saw it reluctantly.
I'm probably never
I
going to
watched
see
it
it.
out of interest.
Yeah.
How was it?
It wasn't good.
Forky? Yeah, tell me
Yeah,
about
I didn't
it.
like it. It was just so unnecessary to me. Like,
Yeah.
You were saying about repetitive Pixar movies, like it's the fourth one. And it's like, it's just the same thing again. Like the themes are so basic and simple in Toy Story. Like they're stretching it thin. They're stretching that thread on Woody's back pretty thin.
Yeah, it was really difficult to care about anything going on. And like bringing back Bo Peep, spoilers, I guess. The movie's been out a while, whatever. Anybody who wants to see Toy Story 4 has already seen it.
So.
But like, yeah, it just felt completely unnecessary. Tons of conveniences. Like, how they just ran into each other at the same playground at that perfect moment.
You know what it felt like?
Come on.
It felt like those straight to DVD
exactly.
Toy Story things, like the Halloween episode, but stretched out to a full length.
Yeah. They have much higher production value. And there are things to appreciate about the movie for sure, mostly animation-wise. There was a video breaking down like the different artificial lenses being used in the film, and to some extent, if it was showing a certain character, there was a certain lens based on how they're supposed to be feeling at that moment. That's great, but it doesn't excuse the story just being really uninteresting. It doesn't excuse the story just being like super convenient the entire time. And when I gave it, what did I rate it? Like a 4 on IMDb? There were people in my subreddit just being like, man, you don't appreciate it enough. Here, this video is evidence. Like, I think it was the Nerd Writer video about the lenses. And it's like, that's icing, you know? Those are extra things. You have to have a good core to your film. You have to have like an interesting conflict. You have to have something that doesn't feel like fake and forced.
They always push the boundaries with that stuff, with the technology. Disney gives them a lot of money to do that stuff. Like, Pixar was founded by some of the people from Apple, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Steve Jobs
had a big role to play.
Yeah, they've always been groundbreaking. Like, even the movies they've made recently that have been so good, I think they're really impressive technically.
Yeah, man.
Like Brave, I really don't like. I think it's really bland.
Forgot about
the
that.
hair was amazing, especially at the time. Like what they did with hair in that. Or like
it was like a tech demo movie.
Pretty much the opening scene was just, hey, look how well we've nailed this water, this water animation.
Yeah.
It looked fantastic.
super
The
cool.
opening scene, like holy crap! I was really
But people
impressed
also
there,
have to
like,
understand it's like a process. They've been making these movies for so long, and now you just get. It's cool to see the technology progress and it got better, but I don't think that makes the stories any better at this point because they've been doing it for so long. It's not even impressive. These leaps.
We're at an interesting plateau now because they are able to make it look so realistic. Where they're gonna have to start getting more creative because in 10 years, when everyone's able to do this, like, it's gonna be the stories and the art direction they got to fall back on more than just look how realistic the water is, kind of
like
stuff.
everything's just procedurally generated.
Yeah,
a computer can basically just do everything for you at a certain point in time.
Yeah, like Gmod, but for making Pixar movies.
Yeah, not to delegitimize the talented animators working today, but hypothetically,
they're the
in
real
the future.
stars of all these animated movies.
Yeah, that's the best part.
And that's why a lot of people watch them. A lot of Disney fans just love seeing the animation.
Mm-hmm.
Just appreciate.
Yeah, I think we're in the minority in terms of Toy Story 4. I think more people than not enjoyed it.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, which is why people make those posts on our subreddit, because it's probably very liberating to have one place on the internet where you can be a little critical of Pixar and people won't downvote you to oblivion, right? So of course we're going to have people like that on our subreddit. So
sure.
Yeah, and Buzz Lightyear in that movie annoyed me a lot. I really like Buzz as a character. He's like my favorite one. And what they did with him in Toy Story 4 was just, come on.
I don't even remember what they did with him.
He was just like a gag character. He was just a gag character. He had one running joke. That was his whole point in the film.
Yeah, I remember not liking what they did with him in Toy Story 3 either.
Yeah, it's that thing when you have a huge ensemble cast and you complete their arc in one or two movies, so then you just have these characters like Han Solo in the third Star Wars movie, where he's like, well, we've sort of completed everything to do with this character. He has no point. So you just turn them into like a running gag, like comic relief type thing.
So I saw this movie probably within the past 2 months, I think. And I'm now just getting
same.
flashbacks of all these different things that happened, like the Keanu Reeves Canadian motorbike guy, where it was literally just he had 3 scenes. One was set up for goals, very quickly introduced and just I want to be able to jump that thing. Next scene. Oh no, I tried jumping the thing and I didn't make it. And then at the end of the movie, I made it, I jumped the thing. And it's it's so forced. It's so forced. You can see the setup so clearly.
It sounds awful.
Oh man,
that's what Keanu Reeves
nothing
does.
else developed there.
I thought Keanu Reeves was like a toy.
Oh man, he was a toy, but he had a toy bike and he was trying to jump a thing.
Oh, okay.
And
cool.
he was
they gave him this whole backstory.
Yeah, literally. It was just show it and then it's done and nothing else about this character is there. It wasn't efficient writing. It was literally just underdeveloped and
It's a stupid gag.
That seemed like the Pixar formula in action to me, where they were trying to make basically a plot device sympathetic.
Yeah, and they're so good at using music at this point. So are film trailers, and I don't think people realize just how manipulative music can be.
Oh yeah,
it's so cookie cutter. Bah, I'm gonna say that line again. My voice is dying. It's so cookie cutter. Oh my god, I was having so much fun yesterday. It's so cookie cutter and formulated, and it's like a factory machine. It's everything is on this checklist in order to get an emotional response out of people. And it doesn't feel genuine. I want to watch movies where it's it feels like someone wants to communicate something.
Disney's remade, or they've made sequels to their animated movies for a long time. And that's, they put them straight to DVD or whatever. But that's kind of what Toy Story 4 felt like on a story level. We just need to give these characters something to do again. I imagine the villain thing is very similar to how they've done it in the past, where they make it sympathetic. It's just I've seen it done before, and they ended it so perfectly too. However long ago it was, 2010. Why
I didn't
bring it up
enjoy
again?
the third one, but
I did a lot. I think it was it was a good cap to the series.
It would have been the place to end it. I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, definitely.
It felt like an appropriate place to
wrap
stop.
It up. Yeah.
I wonder if people are going to act surprised when the Toy Story 5 gets announced. I wonder if people will pull the same, oh, I can't believe they're doing
no,
this.
not anymore.
The movie
That's
ends in
over.
a very open-ended way to sort of set up where it could possibly go in the future without spoilers. So it's like, a new sort of like cinematic universe. Then we'll get the Toy Story universe now. Forky's got his own show on. Yeah, right at the end. I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but people will know what I'm talking about.
Well, right. Disney's got to make as much money as they can off Toy Story. They have that park, like there's a section of their park in Disney World that's like Toy Story. Got to sell tickets for that.
I mean, it's a slam dunk marketing-wise. Like just the merchandising alone for that franchise.
Because they're literally toys.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Perfect.
It's the same reason they keep making Cars movies. It's just the merchandise is so ridiculously popular. Because it's just cars, and kids love little cars.
Cars with faces on them. Who doesn't want that?
It's so creepy.
I'm getting all these weird flashbacks to the movie. Like, I completely forgot about it.
Yeah, I forgot about it too, until just now.
I remember being upset when, like, the whole motivation of that girl doll character, the vintage one, she's like, my voice box is broken. She pulls out this, like, little plastic record thing, because, like, it's so old. Like, I don't understand what's really in there, just this, like, old vintage thing. She's like, oh, yeah, if I take your voice box, it'll work with my voice. Like, okay, well, how does any of that work? You're a toy from, like, the 90s. These parts aren't going to be compatible. It was frustrating.
So rushed.
And then it worked. I was shocked. I thought it wasn't going to work. Her voice is fine after that point.
It's like how they write the straight-to-DVD Disney sequels, Aladdin 2 and 3, like those kind of fucking things.
Lion King 2.
Lion King 2.
Yeah,
that's
was a bad
just how
one.
they write normal movies now. That's how bad it's gotten.
Yeah, it's all about marketing. It's all about advertising. If you get enough hype, it doesn't really matter.
You have to plug in all the elements people want too.
Yeah.
Recognizable IP. Throwing Keanu Reeves, doesn't even matter what he does.
Exactly. He's popular right now.
Right. People made such a big story about that. I'm like, yeah, he's an actor.
They had Key and Peele.
He got cast in a movie.
He's doing his job, yeah.
Yes. He got paid to be in a movie. Wow. Crazy.
Did you know that actors are in movies?
No way.
What?
If I had enough money, I could get Keanu Reeves to be in my movie.
Yeah.
You could, Ralph, you could realistically get Bruce Willis in your movie, probably.
Probably.
Oh, Bruce Willis, easily.
You can do that.
Let me see what I have in my pocket. I could fucking...
$5.
Get him some booze.
Penny,
yeah, I'll get him some tequila.
That's all he wants. Yeah, I don't think we need to talk about this much more, honestly.
No, yeah.
We've been over Pixar a few times on this podcast, but we'll see what happens.
Leave them alone.
Leave Pixar alone.
Yeah, they can't take it.
I'll probably watch Onward in theaters. I probably won't watch Soul in theaters. We'll see what another trailer shows, but it seems like it's just going to devolve into something really annoying.
I don't see any of them in theaters anymore because I don't like the audience of children.
Yeah.
I don't like children either.
I haven't seen a Pixar movie.
No, they're very loud.
Theaters for a long time. Yeah.
And I don't mind because it's a children's movie. I can't tell them to be quiet. They're enjoying themselves.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just like, I am going to watch it from my house and enjoy myself.
Have you ever, because if a kid's movie is popular enough, they actually screen them at like the adults only theaters too, like the ones where you can buy alcohol.
Well, I guess I could do like a late showing. Like they still have those. I don't think kids would go, or as many kids would go.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're playing
You'd
Toy
be
Story
surprised.
at 10 o'clock. Yeah.
There are ones where they serve booze and they can't get in even if it's late. So
ooh, okay,
nice.
I'll find one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We saw a film. We all saw a film in theaters. We were thinking about what was in theaters, what we could talk about on the podcast, and I don't know. It wasn't a great idea. We watched Doctor Sleep.
Yeah.
Spoilers for Doctor
The
Sleep, I
Shining
guess,
reboot.
if you care about it. I don't think you should.
Or a sequel.
It's not great. There's some people that like
How'd
it, I
it
guess,
do?
but
Did it do well at the box office?
I don't even know. I don't even fucking know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Check
either.
this out. What did you think of the movie?
It'll
While
probably
I
make
look
its
this up.
money back.
Oh
Doctor
yeah,
Sleep.
because it's based on something else.
Well, that's one thing you can give props to. At least it's not called The Shining 2 or something.
Or like they hammered in a Shining story or something. Doctor Sleep, a Shining story.
Forbes, why Doctor Sleep is a terrifying box office disappointment. Except I'm not going to read that article because it wants me to turn off my ad block.
The budget couldn't have been too high because it's a fairly reserved movie and quite held back. The last section is probably the most expensive sort of element of the movie, I'd say. But I'm sort of with you, Adam. I would struggle to call it bad to me. I think it's got a lot of decent individual elements, but it just doesn't come together for me. I think it's way too long. I think it's kind of being torn between two worlds a little bit. So, because I put a review on Letterboxd saying that like I was kind of bored and it was more Stephen King than Kubrick, which is fine. Like I have no problem with it being a more direct adaptation of the Doctor Sleep novel, but it is so deeply tied with the Kubrick movie
because that was
and
the good
was
one.
drawing so much from that film. Where it was really distracting. Every time I was starting to get into the sort of thriller aspect, because the film isn't really scary in the same way The Shining was, it just kept pulling me back and forward. Like, is this supposed to be like as intense and have like a really strong atmosphere like the original Shining? Because it really didn't move the needle at all for me in terms of that kind of stuff. Like it had some creepy kind of ideas, but it's that typical thing where when you have supernatural elements that are explained to the point that it does in this movie, they stop being mysterious or scary in any way to me.
It's a real Star Wars episode 1 of The Shining.
It got to the goofy sort of level where they were like, your steam, that shit's
that was
whack.
Really funny.
I can't wait to get more steam. I wasn't that much into the steam element. It seemed like such a direct adaptation of what I'd imagine the Doctor Sleep book is like.
I have no idea.
I can't exactly say, but that's what everyone is saying. Like in my comments and when I'm reading about the film, people are saying, it is more King than Kubrick in that sense. I mean, we've had just such an onslaught of Stephen King adaptations. I'm kind of getting sick of the sort of familiar elements of those kind of movies.
Yep.
Especially when they're like this kind of theme. Like, how many have we had this year alone? There was It, Chapter 2. There was Pet Sematary. Now this one. Like, it's every horror movie that comes out is a Stephen King like novel.
Yeah, and also kind of like tied into a previously successful adaptation from like the 80s. All three that you listed.
Those are the ones that
Pet
did
Sematary in the 80s?
They adapted one of his like not horror books a few years ago. Like Idris Elba was in it. It came out in August. It was like The Dark Tower.
Oh yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, that was
like,
pretty bad.
I think that was Stephen King. Yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah. But like they tried adapting those kinds of books, and people don't connect with that as much.
Horror,
they like horror. Yeah, they like It. They like The Shining. I don't think anything about this movie works on its own. The only stuff I was interested in was the connections to The Shining. Like the whole opening I thought was pretty interesting with Danny and the Shelley Duvall impersonator. But I didn't enjoy any of the like new stuff on its own at all.
Yeah. Did either of you watch The Haunting of Hill House?
No.
Same director.
No, I didn't.
A lot of people really loved that.
What else did he direct? Hush?
He did Gerald's Game, which I was a big fan of. I know you guys didn't like as much.
Yeah, I don't really like that one.
I don't know if I saw that.
How you feel about Adam Wingard, Adam? That's how I kind of feel about this guy.
Okay.
Adam Wingard's the guy who did The Guest, right?
Yeah.
And those... Yeah, that's how I feel about this guy. I don't like his movies. Yeah. I don't like Gerald's Game. I don't like Hush. I think they're both not scary. And I like this. I just didn't connect with anything in it. The cinematography was pretty good, but that's just because they were trying to mimic the Kubrick movie. If they weren't trying to do that gimmick, it probably would have just been shot like a normal horror movie that you'd see like in theaters.
Haunting of Hill House looked similar, I would say, like cinematography wise. There's actually one episode in Haunting of Hill House that has like fantastic cinematography.
Well,
but I have a lot of...
I didn't see that movie. So.
I have a lot of issues with that show and a lot of issues with this movie.
Oh, shot.
Kind of in opposite ways. The Haunting of Hill House was something where it was 10 hours long and it was a story that should have been told in 2 hours. And honestly, like, if you made a fan edit of that show, you'd have something great. But on its own, I found it to be a very frustrating experience, just blue balling the entire time. Whereas this movie, I found probably would have worked better as a miniseries. I feel like if you're going to have this universe with, you know, like, oh, everybody's shining and blah, 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 and they each have different powers, and, you know, there's a lot that you could fit in there. And from a production quality standpoint,
totally all over the place it is.
It also kind of felt like a modern television miniseries.
Felt long enough to be one.
Yep.
Tonally, it would have worked better if it was longer. Like, it has all these horror and thriller elements. It kind of would have... They would have had more time to flesh it out if they had more time.
Yeah.
But they didn't. So there's like shootouts like in the movie. I was like, what the fuck? I thought I was watching a horror movie, and then it like becomes
that,
yeah, it's crazy.
There's like 10 of these characters that we don't know anything about, and they're literally just there to add to the amount of people that are trying to kill this little girl. And it's like, oh no, there's a big conflict because there's so many of them and they're so powerful, and then they all die in the same scene. And we didn't learn anything about them, really. It was only the one girl that kind of got developed, barely. You know, if it was a miniseries, you could explore these things further. You could have different concepts, you know, different ideas at play with, like, how they would be living in this world and, you know, what they'd be doing. I feel like you could turn this into something that would be, like, 6 hours long, and it would probably be better.
Yeah. For me, though, I liked the idea of exploring the kid character from The Shining with an actor as good as Ewan McGregor and all the issues he's had. Like, he starts the movie and it's like, oh, he's a really flawed character and he's clearly got a lot to kind of get over, like in his arc. And they start and it's going a certain direction, and then the middle of the movie happens and he doesn't really like get much development, and he isn't really that important particularly. It kind of shifts over to the young girl almost more of a protagonist for a while. And then he does get a wrap-up towards the end when he goes back to the house, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a second. But there just wasn't much to it. Despite how long the film was, I didn't feel like I really got inside the character's head beyond the most surface level,
Same.
You know, sort of storytelling at the beginning. Which and that to me could have been the interesting element. And they just didn't explore him enough to me. Like, I don't care about all these kids and stuff. If you're going to use your connection to the original movie to get me invested... Like, I will be inherently more invested in that kid because you remember him from the original, and it isn't just banking on you. He's not going around on like a motorbike with 3 wheels. Like, it's not that level, but they do just drop the ball in that kind of stuff, and that could be because of the novel. I really don't know, but they chose. It's such a like plot heavy movie, and they spend so much time developing these villains. And I don't know how you guys felt about the villains, but the amount of development they got. I know a lot of people are enjoying that aspect of it, but to me, made them much less frightening to me. I didn't like learning that much about them. To me, that was like not interesting or important to the story. Like it's obvious to me that as soon as you find out they're basically steam vampires, then it's like, okay, and they need the steam to stay alive or whatever. Okay, like that's all I need. I understand. Like, let's go back to the main character. Let's learn more about him and his like struggle with these weird powers and everything that he has. Because that's what's so good about the original Shining. Like, it doesn't sit around explaining all of these concepts like it's more of a superhero movie than an atmospheric thriller. Like, it just didn't really work for me, and I was just as it went on, it just kept losing me more and more because there's just nothing really that engaging to me that was happening. I wasn't frightened. The characters were just stuck in one place for a long time. Nothing was really developing that interesting. I didn't really enjoy the performance of Rebecca Ferguson. She really didn't work for me.
She was so annoying.
I thought she was a little over the top. Yeah.
Really over the top.
She's the one with
really
the hat, right?
Sort of hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's a good actor too. Like, I've always liked her in movies.
She is.
That's why I was shocked.
So I was actually disappointed. She was doing this weird accent that was going in and out. Like, sometimes she was a bit Irish.
She wasn't intimidating.
She was English, and it was...
No, she was like just a comical, evil... Yeah.
The moment the movie lost me in terms of anything like frightening was... Do you remember the CG baby like cry or scream or something?
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact. It's sort of early on in the movie. I can't remember if it's a dream sequence or something, but there is like a weird CG baby just like in his bed or something, and I was like, that looked bad and like didn't hit the way I think it was intending, and I'm really not scared.
Nothing hit. The only things that hit were when they just inserted things from The Shining into the movie. Oh, it's the elevator with the blood. They go back to the hotel. I didn't find
those parts to be working at all, honestly.
No.
Those parts were...
reminded me of Ready Player One.
I think Ready Player One did a better job at being The Shining than this film did.
Well, it's like a total parody of it.
In this movie.
Yeah. Well, like the opening, they were doing the same thing again with where Danny's like driving his bike and there's the carpet and there's like the mute sound and then it hits the wood and it makes the... Like, they just copy all these same things that are supposed to fuck with you from The Shining, and it doesn't work this time.
Yeah.
Because, like, they've already been parodied and done to death. Like, we all know these tricks.
Yeah.
It's just really not scary. I don't know what I was supposed to get out of this.
The
Honestly.
final act of the movie only really works if you've seen the original Shining or have read this book, I assume, or the original books, because all the characters that show up, they're not really explained or set up in the movie. Like in that last shot where they kind of crowd around the villain character to finally defeat her. Like, it's all just like references to the original, and yes, that makes sense because they're in the original movie and everything. But it's like it's strange considering the fact that it is trying to. It's my biggest issue. It's trying to distance itself from the original and try something new, but at the same time fall back on it so hard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because at that shootout, I was like, okay, so it is doing something completely different. And then right after the shootout, they just go back to the Shining house. And it was like, yes, this makes sense for this character in terms of like completing his story, his arc, and like overcoming his faults in a way and coming to terms with himself. And that's another underused like aspect of like the steam vampires. They're like addicted to steam. Mm-hmm. And Ewan McGregor's dealt with like his various addictions and whatnot. Like that should have been the heart of the movie to me, exploring that a bit more. And that sort of parallel between the villains and him, or something like that, something more than what happened in the film. Because like, I don't know, I don't want to sound like so hyper negative, because people are enjoying this movie. Like, this is one of those ones where people are enjoying it way more than like the Metascore or the things dictate.
Sure,
like on that level. So I want to like be clear about, because there were things I did like. Apparently I missed like the best sequence in the movie because I needed to pee, where Rebecca Ferguson's lying on like the top of a bus and she like dreams something's over to.
Yeah,
I only saw the very end of it. So
okay, when she got her hand fucked up,
she like flies through space or something.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
Yeah, I mean,
it has its moments.
It was kind
like,
of
it's a cut above like Countdown or like some god awful horror movie that's released in theaters. There is some artistry to it. It's just really bland.
I think the bar's pretty low for horror movies.
Yeah,
honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people get upset when I say that,
because like recently, it's just I've seen so many good horror films
from like A24. You're talking about though.
A24, but just It Follows too. Babadook. I mean,
It Follows was also A24.
Like, yeah, was it really? I don't think it was.
I thought it was.
Was it really? I don't think
it might not be. I don't know.
I guess someone on Reddit will let us know. I know A24 did his next movie, which they didn't release.
Yeah.
But,
oops.
Whatever. But like, it's just, we should not be expecting something this bad at this point.
Yeah.
We've had great horror movies this year. Even if you want to count The Lighthouse, which is like a crazy psychological avant-garde horror movie.
When I was saying that though, about it not being a horror movie, like people got all angry at me for like saying, well, okay, then treat it for what it is. It's a thriller. Treat it like a thriller. But it's like, you're clearly trying to scare me. There are multiple points where it's
a horror
framed
thriller.
In a way.
There's lots of
trying
jump
to scare you, and it's
scares.
based on. It's a sequel to The Shining movie, at least in part, and that film is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's creepy at the very least. It has a really memorable feeling about it. It's uneasy. It's all wrong, like intentionally in the best way possible for horror. And if they tried to channel it here, I don't think they really achieved it.
It's frustrating because it's a film that is simultaneously trying to capitalize off of the original Kubrick film while ignoring everything that made it work so well. Like, there's way too much in it that's just like editing choices are way too like modernized, kind of like jump scary and like really cheesy manipulative music, and like the effects don't look great. I mean, like they would be more passable for a miniseries, which is another reason why I think it would have worked better in that sense. Like, people are more forgiving to those sorts of things when it's not like a movie in theaters. You know, whenever they were stealing the steam off of people, that never looked real. It was always like, oh, computer effect, you know? Like, it was just really annoying.
I think just conceptually there's something so goofy about that as well.
Oh, yeah. It looked so silly.
It is a
crack
super
fiends.
villain. like backstory. It was more of a superhero movie than like a horror movie to me. It was like an X-Men movie.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like that at points for sure. Yeah, it was very frustrating. I don't like how the characters were really, really, really stupid in ways that only existed to advance the plot. Like, there's no reason why that little girl should have been at her home while they were doing the second decoy thing.
That's exactly what I thought.
I was like, the whole second half of the movie wouldn't even happen. Why are you there when the movie has already explicitly stated that they know where you live? They found you there before. And now you're just hanging out at your home, probably with the door unlocked based on how it was shown. Your dad died, now you're kidnapped. There were 4 of you that came up with this plan. You could have just rented a hotel. What's your deal?
A police station. She could have gone to a police station.
Anywhere.
There.
Literally anywhere else.
These crazy people are trying to chase me and kill me.
Well,
Anywhere
weird
else.
little quirks where, like, they sort of Dark Knight rised it, where the other alcoholic character who's, like, recovered, when he first meets Ewan McGregor, he's like, yeah, I know you. Just from looking at you. I know everything about you. Come on, come stay here. I'll give you this, like, I'll vouch for you. You can rent this place where I also live. I said, what? I thought that was going to be. I thought it was going to be a reveal that he had the shine as well or something, and that would have like sort of explained that a bit. Like if he could like sense it or something like that. That's what I was expecting. It was like, oh no, I guess he could just read that he's an alcoholic and he relates to that. So
I think maybe he had a little bit, like they were saying earlier, because they're like, yo, everybody has a tiny bit of the shining or something. You know, you just have a really lucky day, and most people just think they're lucky, but in reality, it's like a tiny bit of the shining.
Some people have more shining than others. Ewan McGregor drank so much apparently that his shining is not as good as it used to be.
Oh, it was like
Didn't
numbed,
they reference that? Yeah, it was like numbed.
You can,
like, what the fuck is going
that's
on
part
with
of the
this?
story as well.
It's not scary when you do that.
They numb the kid.
Yeah.
When she's like been kidnapped, so she can't like communicate.
Yeah. I found it to be barely below the bar for what I would enjoy pretty much the whole movie. And then at the end, it was just a gigantic clusterfuck. The last half hour was literally just, remember The Shining? It was so
really
frustrating every
disappointed by that.
scene. When he was walking past the door that like Jack Nicholson did the hey, here's Johnny thing at, and they showed the clip. Just like, oh yeah, remember?
Yeah, they just took it way too far.
And it was a jump scare too. It was like a jump scare flashback.
Yeah.
The whole following him up the stairs. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But
that
the
setting
whole
is
stairs thing again.
That setting does all the work for you. It's a creepy ass place. So I was really expecting, if they were going to go back there, to show us something new there, you know, not just remind us of everything that happened. Because that's what I was really anticipating, was like, okay, this director, I really liked like Gerald's Game, whatever it was called. I thought because I'm quite easy to scare, so it's amazing this film didn't scare me in any way. And I thought that film had some like really creepy elements of like the like bottle movie type, like that kind of thing going on. And I thought maybe I'd see some waves of that in the movie, but by the time it got there, it fully lost me, because it was just, hey, it's the blood elevator. Hey, it's the twins. Hey, it's the why is the film so obsessed with the old lady in the bath?
Because it's an iconic scene, and they have to spam it to death now.
With the same music, the same fucking credit music, even.
Yeah.
The Midnight Stars and You. It's just like nothing it does on its own.
Yeah, completely reliant off
so
of a
annoying.
better film.
Yeah.
No, but it's not horror, it's a thriller, so...
It doesn't really matter
So
either way.
therefore,
It doesn't work
it's not
well
thrilling
as
either.
either, in my opinion.
You're right.
Super cheesy. Super, super cheesy the entire time.
Yeah,
Very
not
difficult to
much
take things
subtlety.
seriously. Yeah, you say that the villain characters had too much screen time. I still don't feel like they were really properly developed, most of them. It was they just got a lot of screen time. Especially the
That's what I'm
one
saying, yeah.
lead villain. And all these other characters, like, I don't know anything about you. Really. The one girl who says she's 15 but looks like she's 30. Like we got a little bit of that, but that's about it.
But their motivation is such a like tired. Really, we're doing this again. Like the villain who wants to live forever, like eternal type thing. That's why I say if it reeled back and made it more so you sort of had to read into why they were doing this stuff, and we weren't constantly always seeing them, and they were like kidnapping kids, and you didn't really see it as often. That to me would be way more frightening, because the mind is what makes these horror films scary. Like,
Oh yeah.
it comes at night. It's what I'm looking for from horror. That even the original Shining to an extent, like it doesn't make you scream every 5 seconds. It just, you're unsettled. You don't know like what's around the corner, and when you are shown something, it's just off enough. Like the creepiest thing in that movie to me is that weird like that they're in masks and like giving him a suck job in like one of the rooms. It's just like,
oh yeah,
so
Sorry, party.
creepy and weird.
That stuck in my fucking brain as a kid.
Yeah, because it is disturbing.
Yeah,
And there isn't anything disturbing about sucking steam out of people and flying around in dreams and shit. Like it is corny.
Now that I think of it, I feel like these villains, especially the main villain, probably would have fit perfectly in the 2019 Hellboy remake. I feel like they fit better there than in The Shining, you know? It's like almost contradictory when you're trying to capitalize off of the Kubrick movie. I don't know if either of you saw the shitty miniseries in the 90s, The Shining.
No.
This film is better than that.
that's the one more accurate.
It's god awful.
It seems better than that.
So bad. Very boring.
This is still a
too.
cut above really bad horror movies.
Yeah.
So I can see why some people like it.
There's some value to it here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the parts where they were just copying The Shining, those were pretty good. They did a good job.
I didn't like that.
Yeah,
that
me
was the
neither.
thing
I
liked
mean,
probably the
Those
technically,
parts pissed me off the most.
They did an accurate job replicating the movie. They got the carpet pretty accurate. They got the doors. Like, it looked good. It's just at service of nothing. Yeah, it's at service of, we need to sell this movie because the actual movie, it doesn't work on its own. So just keep cutting to The Shining.
It's like the horror equivalent of reference humor in those Friedberg Seltzer movies or whatever.
Exactly.
It's just like, remember this? It's just a reference. Like, you're not doing anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they're slowly walking up the stairs, I was just like,
Treehouse
why?
of Horror, and like, yeah, we've seen all these things before. It's not scary anymore.
It's like poetry, it rhymes. That's why they did it.
Oh God,
Yeah.
George.
Georgie boy. All right. What would you guys give it out of 10? I think I'm done talking
Yeah, it's
about
brutal.
this.
2 out of 5.
Yeah, I give it the same 2 out of 5.
No, I gave it a 3. Oh wait, but yours is a 4. Never mind. I'm so tired.
You gave it 3 out of 10.
Yeah,
right?
3 out of 10.
Where is it? Yeah.
Yeah, so mine's lower. I am so tired. It was a 4 for most of the movie, but then the last half hour brought it down a point.
Yeah, I was like that too. Like, I was between a 2 and a 3, but the last third, I was like, okay,
Exact thing.
there's
That's
no
what
way
I
I can recommend this.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
I
it
can't
got
bring
so
that.
bad.
I was wondering if part of the issue was that, what's the director's name again? Mike Flanagan.
Yes.
He edited the movie, didn't he, as well? It might have improved the movie if someone else edited it and was more brutal with some of the unnecessary like expansions in the film that could have just been cut out. And like, why was that side character who was also like an ex-alcoholic or whatever, why was he in it so much? Like, what was the purpose aside from the flat thing? Because he just gets killed and there's no really emotional gut punch to that. It's not effective particularly. It's just like Ewan McGregor's like, oh, I guess he's dead now. That's convenient. Now I can go to the Shining house and not have someone helping me.
Yeah, there was a lot of it just seemed unnecessary. Just pick one. Either do your own thing or do The Shining. Either make a mini series and explore everything thoroughly, or cut it down to make it a acceptable movie length with good pacing. It was just in between on all these different aspects, and didn't work great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're pretty much all on the same page.
Yeah, I guess we do our movie recommendation thing, Alex.
Right. Yeah, so I recommended Naked Lunch, 1991's Naked Lunch, directed by David Cronenberg. And I feel like a lot of the movies I wind up having to explain the plot of also happen to be like the most crazy, bizarre, things of all time. I'll do my best. So
you recommended it this time.
So yeah, true. No, but so the main character is Peter Weller, who RoboCop gets addicted to. He's an exterminator, and he gets addicted to the substance that he exterminates bugs with, which sort of makes him hallucinate aliens, and his typewriter starts talking to him, and it's like an insect with like an ass that talks, and he sort of goes country to country. He kills his wife by accident, and he is kind of dictating this character's descent into madness from what is a clear allegory for crazy drug use, because that's most of the plot, to be honest. Like, you just have to watch it. It's one of those. Like, it's not like super plot heavy. It's very, very strange, because this is based on a very famous novel, very, very famously controversial novel. After I watched the film, I was like, yeah, okay, I really enjoyed that, but I gotta be honest, didn't fully understand or really get what was happening there. And then you start reading about the movie if you're interested in that sort of thing. And I watched that documentary. I forgot to note down what it was called.
Burroughs the movie?
Yeah, Burroughs the movie, yeah. That was the writer of the original novel. And you kind of figure out that the film is semi-autobiographical. God, I'm really losing it today.
We're all fucking
it's yeah,
we're all about to die.
And having to describe this movie as well is just like
autobiographical.
But yeah, autobiographical sort of story about what the writer of the novel was kind of going through and doing at the time. He was traveling around the world. He really did kill his wife.
That was insane for me to find out after
that actually happened. Yeah, so
I had no idea that was
and
a
it
thing.
adds so much context to the movie. It adds so much sort of depth to the movie, to me anyway, which led to me kind of falling in love with it after reading everything about it. So what did we think about it?
I had no idea what to make of it.
Oh, really?
So you go ahead, Adam. Yeah.
Well,
I liked it a lot. By the end of it, I did enjoy it, but like your reaction the first time, Alex, I was like, what the fuck was that?
It's entertaining.
Yeah, it's definitely entertaining. And upon further research, and I even watching it the first time, I picked up on that like meta level with the author. I'm like, is this about the author as much as it is about this character and what he's going through? And yeah, that totally worked for me. Very entertaining. But yeah, Adam, you go on.
I loved it throughout, to be honest. I don't think that there was any point that I wasn't really on board with it. But I was aware that this was pretty much just an autobiographical take on, addiction, drug use, etc., from this writer who I already knew was like a heroin addict.
Right, yeah.
And so this
and much more too.
Oh yeah, and the book coming out in the 50s, obviously very controversial. It apparently got banned in several states and countries for violating sodomy laws or something.
Yeah, it was held to trial.
Yeah, huge influence.
Sanity trial.
I wasn't aware that the accidentally killing his wife thing was real. So that was a gigantic surprise after watching the film. I feel like the Criterion Special Features actually provided more information about this writer than the Burroughs the movie documentary did. That seemed like something kind of like more for the fans of his work.
Yeah, I didn't get that much out of it because I already read his whole like wiki and the movies wiki and the books wiki. So watching the film or the documentary, I didn't get that much more out of it, as you say.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
There's a lot that I love about this movie. It kind of has vibes similar to what's that movie? Scanner Darkly, I felt. Yeah. In terms of how it's presented. Yeah, I really love movies that deal with these kinds of losing your mind, insanity, addiction kind of themes. And I love how many different things you can do with it. It's never going to have any kind of like typical structure, and I think that would probably be off-putting to a lot of people if they're expecting like, oh, I'm watching a movie. It's like, well, you are, but it's more experimental, I guess, in that sense. Like, you're not supposed to have the same sort of beats or like satisfying payoffs or conclusions that a typical story would have.
Yeah, because Burroughs, when he wrote the novel, he wrote it in such a way where he intended so that you can read it.
Yep.
You can read the chapters in any order, which is a bizarre concept and a crazy out there idea. And of course, like adapting that kind of novel into a movie is an insane task.
It was thought to be impossible.
Yeah, man, he said it couldn't be done.
Yeah.
It was like Watchmen. It's like on that list.
But in under 2 hours, I think David Cronenberg did it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, I think it might be my favorite Cronenberg, to be honest. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I had a feeling you'd like
puppets, the actual typewriter, and the
They're
giant
so
alien he would
impressive to
talk
me.
to. Yeah, and genuinely disgusting too in Cronenberg fashion. Like that, the asshole was so disgusting to look at, and funny too. There's like this sick sense of humor to it,
was a
but
funny
it's also
film, actually.
disgusting. Yeah, and he's like rubbing this fucking powder on it. It's like, oh yeah,
Rub it on my lips.
Yeah, and they kept saying, it must be done real tasty. Like, just really strange dialogue like that.
Yeah,
It's
but it
very
works.
charming.
I love in
very
these
funny.
kinds of like the main character's losing his mind, drug-related movies. I feel like a lot of the kind of like setups and payoffs, like these little tiny callbacks to really subtle things, are parts of those movies that I really enjoy. Like, he notices that his wife says the same thing as the cockroach, or they have certain references to, I guess, places that are referenced a few times in the film. Like there's these tiny little, I guess, seeds that are being planted where something seems familiar and you're not exactly sure why sometimes, or almost conspiratorial elements where there's these things connecting and you don't know why, but it kind of implies this sense of significance to it. Makes it a bit more like
the whole
eerie
superstitious
and
sort of angle.
alluring. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's just totally losing his mind. Like he has no idea what's going on, and he's convincing himself through these like conspiratorial superstitious events, like that scene where he finds the like pubic hair and nails buried in a plant pot. There's like loads of weird specific little details like that that are like they're dream-like details, where it's something that would happen in a dream or on like a weird trip or a drug experience, where you're just like, this is so specific. This is so like coming from a place like that it really does drive that just insanity that the main character is going through. And I loved his like deadpan delivery for most of the movie.
Yeah.
He was
Every
such an
line was
interesting character
delivered
to me,
perfect for the tone.
especially because of the setting. Because it's set in the 50s, they have a certain cadence the way they speak, and he was like he reminded me a lot of it was a Sardonicast recommended movie, actually, the Coen Brothers one where he's a hairdresser. Yeah, the man who wasn't there, Billy Bob. Yeah, Billy Bob Thornton in that movie. It was a similar sort of character archetype, quite quiet, a bit sort of witty in the responses, very, very dry. Yeah, I really enjoyed his performance, and he did have moments of like vulnerability and some expressive sort of horrible things to act to add a bit of range to his character.
I really loved the vocabulary in this movie.
Exactly, yeah.
I feel like it's one of those films where even if I didn't know it was based off of a book, I would probably infer that just by the vocabulary of the film. It is a movie that's, not just about drugs, but it's also about writing. It's very, I guess, kind of like introspective when it's,
Very
I guess,
much.
in terms of it being autobiographical. And I'm not, I would have to watch it a few more times to get everything that it's trying to say, I guess. But it did really connect with me in a lot of ways that I really enjoyed. I feel like I definitely got a lot out of a first watch for this movie.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's the kind of thing where you can see how a film adaptation could just fall flat on its face. Like, I think of something like Cloud Atlas. Do you remember that movie?
Yep.
Like where the novel is just known as this like just expansive, like no one can adapt this, and the movie like really didn't live up to it. But here, they're creative enough, the pacing is quick enough, the scenes are interesting enough, the setups are good enough, the puppets are amazing, and they do the really interesting creative things. Like there's that scene where Ian Holm is walking around with the main character, and Bilbo's walking around, and I was noticing his audio isn't matching up with his mouth right now. And then, like, it became part of the story that was actually happening from the main character's perspective. And I was like, that's so clever. I really love details like that because it's like it's a payoff for people who are paying attention. Like, I was really watching it. I was like, I might have to note this down that the ADR wasn't very good here or whatever, but it was actually like part of it. And I thought that was
the
really
film's
cool.
basically fucking with you, which is great.
Yeah.
Because it really puts you into the mind of the main character where everything's fucking with him, or at least he feels that way.
Yeah.
I love the color palette of the movie. Lots of like weird yellow kind of color. And then
like dark green, orange.
And then when he leaves the country at the end, the color palette completely changes. And like that's all you need to know. That's all the information you need to understand that he's in a different place, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually impressed by some of the scope of the production at certain points, considering estimated budget of only about 16 million. So fairly small, and the film was a dud financially. No one went to see it. Like, surprise, surprise. But that doesn't really matter. That doesn't
How do
really
you
affect
market
the film's
it?
quality. But yeah, like that. There's the specific moment where they had all the mugwump alien characters all kind of hung upside down, being milked. Like, and there's like a wide shot where you see so many of them. And I was like, wow, they really put the attention to detail in there with that. Yeah, and that was a disturbing moment. I love those creatures. I thought the scenes where the main character's communicating with them were, you didn't even doubt for a second that he was talking to another character. Like with just the detail in those animatronics with like the hand and the way the hands move and all the different motion in the huge puppet. It was very impressive to me, just even on that level alone.
Mm-hmm.
Just to like explain how out there the author of the book was. Like, this guy, he like believed in magic and stuff.
Oh, I
like
didn't know
there's a whole
that.
section on his wiki about his magical beliefs. So I'll read you a little bit of it. It was like this is something else. So Burroughs had a long-standing preoccupation with magic and the occult, dating from his earliest childhood, and was insistent throughout his life that we live in a magical universe, as he himself explained. Get this. In the magical universe, there are no coincidences and there are no accidents. Nothing happens unless someone wills it to happen. The dogma of science is that the will cannot possibly affect external forces, and I think that's just ridiculous. It's as bad as the church. My viewpoint is the exact contrary of the scientific viewpoint. I believe that if you run into somebody in the street, it's for a reason. Among primitive people, they say that if someone was bitten by a snake, he was murdered. I believe that. There's a little bit more. Since the word magic tends to cause confused thinking, I would like to say exactly what I mean by magic and the magical interpretation of so-called reality. The underlying assumption of magic is that the assertion of will as the primary moving force in the universe, the deep conviction that nothing happens unless somebody or some being wills it to happen. To me, this has always seemed self-evident. From the viewpoint of magic, no death, no illness, no misfortune, accident, war, or riot is accidental. There are no accidents in the world of magic. So this guy, he was a character at the very least.
Yeah.
Sounds like a drug addict to me.
Too much bug powder.
Fucking hippie.
And in that documentary, there are tons of clips of him just like monologuing and reading excerpts from his book, and he has conviction. I'll give him that. Like, and the ideas he was coming up with were very lofty and strange like that. But also, it makes it make so much more sense. Like the film, when you find out all of this about the writer, it really does add a lot. I was imagining if this wasn't based on a book and this film was just standalone, if it would work as well. It's almost like a Salo, where the context is so important to it working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's quite an interesting character for sure. And the movie is an interesting character as well. I think it's great that Cronenberg captured just how much personality there is. And it really feels like, you watch the movie and then you watch the guy's interviews and it's like, oh, okay, I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
really
and it
just
seemed
shines
true
through.
to the original kind of story. It didn't try to spin it in any sort of, like manipulative way. It was just very, like, it was Cronenberg's voice, but it still seemed very true to the essence of what made the original story what it was.
Yeah, he's always been great with practical effects and animatronics. Like those things are really, really well suited for this film. They all work really, really well.
I love the part in the movie when he crushes the bug with the shoe.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking great. It's like this slimy, just excellent effects.
Tons
all
of
around.
great effects.
And it was cool, too, because this is not, like, it's just not that kind of movie. It's like a drama, noir, like, mostly just dialogue and characters interacting. And it has, like, these crazy effects and moments like that are so goofy. It really helps with the pacing and kept me invested in it.
It really helps, yeah.
Yeah.
It keeps it entertaining.
What's really sad is you see a director like this that has so much experience with practical effects, and then in some of their more recent films, like Maps to the Stars, somebody gets lit on fire next to a swimming pool, and they use CG fire, and it looked terrible. Like, fire has been perfected in CG for a long time, right? Like, the fire looked pretty convincing in the Hills Have Eyes remake in, like, 2004. Maps to the Stars was, like, 2015, and it looked terrible. The guy's next to a pool. Just do it practically. Get a stunt double. You can't tell who it is anyway. It's like, what? You're this director from the 80s
cheaper.
that did everything practically.
Cheaper and easier.
Is it really cheaper to make CG fire than to just get somebody, some random stunt double to be like, okay, I'll be lit on fire for like 2 seconds and then just jump into the pool?
Cheaper.
I don't know.
It's
it looked
just
like
laziness
shit.
too.
It really,
like,
really felt like laziness.
Why would we waste our time shooting a guy
quicker.
on fire?
Yeah, George Lucas
It's not the
approach.
point of the story. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what was so impressive to me about the variation of the puppetry as well, because like even when they had multiple puppets for the like main typewriter creature.
Oh yeah, they had
insect,
like
and
13
there's
of
the
them.
part where and there's the part where the typewriter is kind of joined in on its head and he's typing on its head, and that's like a separate puppet to the one earlier. And there's like there's so many different little details, and that weird thing that looks straight out of like a Geiger painting that was like humping the hump spine, whatever the fuck that
it
was.
reminded me of a face hugger.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is the type of movie where I would almost be expecting it to get really repetitive, but I found it pretty entertaining throughout. Like, I never really knew where it was going, and you know, the variation of all these different practical effects, like those were in the movie frequently enough, and they didn't just do the same thing over and over with them, that it really helped my experience.
Yeah, and the dialogue is very good.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really memorable
The dialogue's great.
moments.
I kind of had that repetitive experience with it, but I think it's because I saw it. This is just my first time seeing it too. I literally just watched it, no reading anything or afterward. I just want to experience what it's like not knowing anything. And I literally had no idea what the fuck to make of it. So, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But maybe upon further
Totally.
viewings, like now that I know what it is, it would help.
I think it is beneficial to know a little bit about the writer before watching it, or like what kind of movie
but
it's
just,
trying to be.
I heard how crazy it was. It's
Yeah.
like, let's get a fresh perspective. Let's look up nothing. And then 15 minutes in, fucking bug typewriters. It's like, all right. I don't know what's going
Strap
on.
in, boys. You got a
strap
butthole
in.
roach. Yeah, there's on one of the special features they were talking about how I think it was actually Cronenberg making this analogy, talking about how the talking asshole, like not just the practical effect, but like the monologue about the talking asshole is supposed to be reflective of like kind of like two halves of the same mind in terms of like what is socially permissible and acceptable to say versus what is grotesque and true. Like this, you know, almost like the devil on your shoulder kind of thing, or
like an internal monologue, internal struggle. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to read into about this movie.
Well, I saw a great description of what this movie is. I saw it described as a head movie, sort of like a Eraserhead. Not, you know, like Eraserhead. It just happens to have head in the title. But it's all seemingly, you know, within someone. It's personifying someone's sort of like
it's
inner conflicts
allegorical.
in a demon. Yeah.
That the setting and all of it is like just to kind of ground you in the themes it's exploring. It's not really happening in that way. Yeah, that is a cool way to look at it, and I definitely got that from it too.
What did you think of the music?
Loved it.
It's great. Yeah.
Really sax heavy, really chaotic.
Yeah, I love the opening credits too. Like the just the design of them.
Yeah.
It's like really creative.
Howard Shore.
Oh yeah, I
did
know
the
that
score.
down.
Mhm.
and then they just
Did a
got some
fantastic
sax soloist to play over a bunch of it. Worked really well.
Oh,
the
really?
sax
That's
in
what they did.
particular
Yeah.
Okay.
really added to that just chaotic tone of it.
Yeah,
Like,
and also kind of
really,
like the
it makes you
noirish
uncomfortable.
elements too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Like a
Because of
Night
it
in the
being like,
City.
almost like a 50s, like like a noir, like rundown.
Like that. Night in the City, The Prowler, like a
Mm-hmm.
jazz-heavy score. Yeah, it was really cool.
Hmm. I really like the voice of the Mugwump and
Mm.
other characters. I like that it was the same
Yeah,
voice for every single one of them, even though they were like different characters. Because it's almost
Yeah.
it's almost like bringing this element of like internal dialogue in a sense. Clearly something in his head.
Yeah, it adds a bit of like sense to it,
Mhm.
so you can sort of like break it down and kind of figure out a little bit if you are like Ralph and you just went in completely blind. It gives you little keys, little details that you can keep track of and try and understand bits about it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I watched this with I think like 4 other people, and everybody really enjoyed it. Nobody was like
nice.
disappointed or pissed off by it. Although I could imagine, depending on the type of person, there's people that would probably just be like, "This is bullshit." It's not a movie for everybody, obviously, but I thought it was great.
Yeah, you'll probably know if you're gonna like it
Yeah.
after the first scene with a like puppet monster thing.
If you say
Like,
there's
if
a talking
if that
butthole,
sells you,
that'll weed out a lot
that's
of
either
people.
gonna work for you or it's not.
If you
Yeah.
can handle a talking butthole, then
Yeah. I don't even have much more beyond that because it is one of those experience movies on top of the backstory element where over time you will probably read more and more into it, maybe even read the original book because it's been recommended to me before. But I don't know how you could resist even reading up about the film after watching it, honestly.
Yeah, I was gonna say something and then I forgot what I was gonna say.
well, you want to get to
dying.
the ratings? If we
Yeah, let's do that.
We're all shitting our
Okay.
brains.
Well, I liked it. I didn't know what to get out of it really, but it was thoroughly entertaining. I would like to see it again at some point. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 for now.
I'm giving. Sorry.
I couldn't decide on a number rating particularly. It doesn't really matter that much at the end of the day to me, but I reckon a 4 stars or maybe potentially a 5 if I like it the same amount on a rewatch.
Yeah, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. How would you guys say this compares to other Cronenberg movies? Because I enjoyed this one more
Well,
than any other one that I've seen, honestly.
He made History of Violence,
Yeah.
right? I think that's my favorite one.
Yeah.
From him.
That would probably
What
be
else
my
did he do?
second favorite, I think.
Did he do The Fly?
Yeah, he did
Yeah,
The
he did
Fly.
do
I
The
wasn't
Fly.
a huge
I
fan
love
of
The
that.
Fly. I love The Fly so much. And
Yeah,
that's like
I
a
love
great
The
horror
Fly.
movie in that it's mostly just a character study, and then the last 10 minutes it becomes that horrific, grotesque Cronenberg
Yeah.
that you know. But most of it is just about Jeff Goldblum and like how
Yeah.
power kind of corrupts him. It's fucking excellent.
Mhm.
It's so good.
But it's like it's not it's linear. It's not like a as
Yeah,
out
very
there.
different.
It's something
yeah,
like this, like-
exactly.
Very
But
different
at the end, it
experiences.
becomes a bug.
It's
That's
very
what's
like
fucking crazy
80s,
about it.
yeah.
and then he gets. Well, I don't want to. Yeah, no spoiling.
It's one of those pop culture
Yeah,
movies. Like you're spoiled for the movie
Yeah.
by watching like. An
Well, you
episode
know
of The
he's gonna become a
Simpsons.
fly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like
the
on the
fly
poster.
part is
Yeah.
the spoiler.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the recommendation. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I'm really glad I watched it finally.
Question time?
Right, let's move on to some questions from the sardine community. Huh?
Ugh.
I saw someone like comment that like, by the way, guys, sardine is probably a bit nicer than sard because sard might be construed a certain way. But yeah, if you want to leave your own questions for us to answer, head over to the Sardonicast Reddit where there's a suggestion thread that Ralph will pin where you can leave us a question asking whatever you want. Let's start with this one. It's only for Adam, but I think it will be an interesting discussion. No, trust me. From Santiago 1106. Hey Adam, can you explain bagged milk?
Oh, that's like an Eastern
What's that?
Canada thing. So it's not
do
like
you not have bagged milk where you are?
no. I don't think most of Canada does that actually. There's like
What is
some
it?
places in Ontario.
Is it
Well,
like
look it up.
Jenkem?
Like do a Google search. So instead of like cartons
Okay.
in grocery stores, they sell milk in bags.
Milk's in bag.
Like a kind of like a plastic.
Oh, for like the environment
Yeah,
or something?
I
Does it, like,
don't
protect
know.
the environment?
That would be a bad excuse. Plastic
Yeah.
bags for the environment.
I'm just trying to figure out why.
No,
Why
yeah, it doesn't
put
make
in
any
a
sense.
bag?
I don't
Yeah,
know
what's the
why it's a
advantage?
thing. Yeah, I have no idea. Like you can't close it properly.
So you've never seen bagged milk in the wild on your
I've
journeys
seen
across
it
Canada?
at a grocery store in Eastern Canada, I think. But yeah, it's not like super common, but it's
How
like
do you even keep it in the
Canada's like the
fridge?
only place that does it. So like I've seen pictures of people storing it. So you'd have like one of those kind of like I guess oval shaped juice jugs or whatever, like a plastic juice jug, and then you put the plastic bag
Yeah.
in the juice jug and then snip off the corner and then like then you can pour it. But then I'm thinking like then you just need like a clip or something to keep it sealed. You don't want to just leave the milk exposed
Yeah.
that entire time. I don't get it either.
What's wrong with a recyclable carton?
There's nothing wrong
don't
with a
get it,
recyclable carton at all. I don't understand why
It's
it's a
much
thing.
better.
I'm
It can't
as
be. It can't be
perplexed as
resealed.
you.
That's the biggest problem. So apparently, the advantage is cheaper to produce and easier to store. They're stackable
Easier
and
to
take up less
store.
space. As if you like, how much milk am I keeping in my fridge? Easier.
I
to
guess
store.
I guess for warehouses. I guess for the grocery store.
Yeah. I guess for the grocery stores, it's better. Not for me.
Is there like a lot of milk related cuisine in Canada or something that you need like to store vast amounts of milk?
I don't think so. I think the French use more milk in their cuisine than
Yeah.
Canadians. So I have no idea. I
just
couldn't even
prefer
tell you
something
which specific
solid that you
provinces
can
have it.
seal.
But I don't think it's a lot. I think most of Canada does not
crazy.
have bagged milk.
It's so funny to me.
It is bizarre. I don't
That's one
get
of the
it.
most famous things about Canada for some reason.
Yeah.
It's just the bagged milk thing.
Just why? doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Comment below if you can justify bagged milk.
Yeah, genuinely, I want to see that. Okay, seeing as that one was aimed for Adam, let's do an inverse one that's for me and Ralph more so. The Earth Show asks, Alex and Ralph, what are your favourite movies that Adam has given a 6 out of 10?
Oh god.
That's funny. Let's see.
I've got an answer if you want to think, Ralph, for a minute.
There's
Yeah,
a
I'm
lot to
gonna look.
choose from. You want to like go through my IMDb ratings or something? I think I can actually filter it for you guys.
Well, I can go on Letterboxd and like
Oh, yeah,
see your
Letterboxd.
ratings
Yeah, you
under
could
it
probably
because
organize
someone.
it
It's
that
not you don't run it. It's like an
No.
unofficial thing.
Like a
right?
fan.
but it's the same
yeah.
ratings.
Yeah, exactly. So I could just do that.
Yeah.
The obvious choice for me is Spider-Verse. I love that movie.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, is Spider-Verse. What did you give that? 6 out of 10?
Yeah, I gave it a 6.
A 6.
I'm comfortable with that rating. I'm
Sure.
very comfortable with it.
And you should be. We love it though.
Closer to a 7
And
than a
you're
5.
wrong. My opinion is right. You're wrong. Nitpicking.
Let's fight, dude.
You are nitpicking and biased. I win. Bye-bye.
That's the meme.
Yes.
That's.
That's the main one for me. Like, I can't really think of any others that are like, I can't believe he's done this. Type sort of stuff.
For a while, people were really pissed off at my 6 out of 10 for Apocalypse Now, but that's because I only saw the Redux version when I was like 15, and it was like 3.5 hours
Right.
long or some bullshit. So I watched the final cut in theaters when it came out recently, and I bumped it up to a 7. And I feel like if I watched the theatrical cut, I would probably give it an 8. I feel
I don't even know what version
I
I've
don't
seen,
I don't understand. Some of those scenes don't need to be there, but a lot of it's really great.
I like First Reformed. I think way more than you did.
I think
but
I gave that at
you
least a
didn't
7.
hate it. Yeah, I think you gave it a 7.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Spider-Verse is a good answer.
Spider-Verse. Sticking with that.
Yeah.
Do you what's the 6 out of 10 you got the most backlash for at the top of your head?
Most backlash for. Ooh. That's a good question.
First thing in your head.
Well, I mean, Toy Story 3 is one that I think I gave a 6 out of 10. I think Inside Out, I don't know. I might have given that one a 5, actually.
Do people get upset about like 6 out of 10s?
Yeah, because
I don't think that's as common. If you
my
hate
rating
something,
system's
then,
a little
people...
different, and so people see 6 out of 10 as like super negative for some reason because they're used to IGN ratings where everything's a 9
Everything's
or
a
else
9.
it's terrible, right?
It's not even worth getting if it's an 8.
Yeah, I mean, like there's some 6 out of 10 movies that I really, really enjoy. There's some 6 out of 10 movies that I don't enjoy that much, but I try to have my rating be a mix of not just personal enjoyment, but what I think are like the like the technical qualities, like the elements of the film, the acting, music, cinematography, writing, etc. And I can understand that even if something really, really works for those elements, that doesn't mean that I'm going to connect to it personally.
It usually ends up being superhero movies. People get the most passionate about.
A lot of superhero movies.
No, regardless of the rating.
Yeah.
Unless you love it.
Are there any other types of movies now? But that's just what movies were.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people were really upset at a 6 out of 10
now.
for, I think, Captain America, the third one, whatever that was.
Civil War.
I was going to say Infinity War. I knew that wasn't the right title.
There's a few different wars.
Yeah. Civil War was, I think I gave that one a 6 out of 10. People were mad when I changed my Joker rating to a 6 out of 10, but you guys all gave it a 6. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we got shit for that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, people weren't happy about that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, just you don't have to agree with every single thing we say. Like, it's fine. You can like whatever you like.
Yeah.
How do you stomach people that you disagree with? People you disagree with are the enemy.
Damn straight.
That's why you listen to other people, though, right? So you can hear something different.
I only ever listen to myself.
I listen to.
Yeah.
People that,
life would be pretty boring then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's just a feedback loop. Mm-hmm. You don't want that. You want someone to tell you that Gemini Man is a great movie.
I think a lot of people also get pissed off at my 6 out of 10 rating is because it is a fairly common rating that I give, but it actually makes sense.
Well, because most movies are just good.
Well, I would say most movies are probably a lot worse, but the types of movies that I watch, the types of movies that will make it to theaters and I see an ad or I know enough about it that actually it's interesting to me and I want to see what it's like, most of those aren't going to be 5 or lower, right? Mm-hmm. Chances are I'm good enough at knowing what I'll enjoy that things will be at least, a bit above the bar, even if they're not, like, exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Okay. Well, Obvious Communist has one for us. Are there any movies that you may have enjoyed at one point, but now are ruined due to memes or controversy, etc.? I've had this happen a couple times to me. The meme one. Even before this new Joker movie came out, Heath Ledger's Joker started getting memed really heavily a couple years ago. It sort of began because the gamer memes like really rose to fame around there, and of course the like Joker thing was tied in. And then it was kind of distracting to me when I rewatched The Dark Knight like a year ago. I just couldn't get it out of my head. I couldn't. It didn't like ruin the movie, but it was just there in the back of my mind always a little bit. These fucking stupid Joker memes. And the same happened for the new movie.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't really get too bothered by memes, I guess. I don't
What about
think
controversy
I do.
then?
Controversy. Well,
like, have you rewatched a Kevin Spacey movie yet?
I'm able
LA
to just like ignore those parts. Really, I'm able to watch a film in a way where I'm not like, even if I do acknowledge it, even if I'm thinking, man, that guy's a creepy pedo or something. Like I can still enjoy Polanski movies. I watched Rosemary's Baby recently, and that was awesome. I mean, I've seen it before, but it doesn't really bother me that much. I'm usually able to separate art from the artist, aside from maybe a couple minor cases. I mentioned this before on the podcast.
Yeah, we talked about this, but
yeah,
like
Chris Brown.
Actors,
although I
have
never
like,
really enjoyed his stuff in the first place.
Like an actor in a movie, who cares? It's just someone doing a job. They're reading lines.
And there's
It's
also
like,
more people that made the movie is a big factor.
Yeah, there's tons of people.
Yeah.
So to act like it's one voice,
yeah,
and it's like this one pedophile made this movie, and that's it. so don't watch it. It's a little, it's simplifying it a little bit.
Yeah, when they're already
LA
multimillionaires,
Confidential,
it's like, are you really hurting
Kevin
them?
Spacey's in it. Yeah, exactly. Kevin Spacey's in it for like a decent amount, but he's acting. He's playing a character. It's like, okay, it's not that distracting.
Yeah.
And like, if you
Kevin
remove the
Spacey in
fact
the
that
movie.
he's a creep behind the scenes, like,
Yeah.
he's a really
It's
good
just a
actor.
guy who got paid to do a job. He's an actor. He got paid to act.
Yeah. It's
He
like,
didn't
I
make
don't
the
know.
movie.
If you find out that the person that somebody like made some life-saving cancer cure, but they were also a pedophile, do you just throw away the cancer cure? Like, like I don't know. You can still
Yeah.
I
appreciate
guess
things. Even
if my plumber was like a murderer
or
or something,
are terrible.
I wouldn't undo the plumbing in my house. I wouldn't undo all
Yeah.
the work he did.
The writer of the novel of the film we just talked about murdered someone and has most
This is
likely
true.
done worse. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
really can't bother us that
And
much.
we gave his film glowing reviews.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's tons of nice people like Will Smith and M. Night Shyamalan, and we give their movies horrible reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about controversies like with Life of Pi, for example, with the
That pissed me off.
animators
Like-
being horrifically underpaid and so on
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
The animation studio
But did
going
that-
bankrupt.
Did that affect your views on the actual film, though? Or
No.
How did you deal with that one?
I think it's separate.
Because
It's a
their
separate
work was still
conversation.
amazing. Yeah, they did a fantastic job. It's just
Yeah.
it sucks what happened to them. When it's like Sausage Party or something, where the movie comes out so bad,
Yeah, it's not even worth
and
it.
it's like yeah, or like you learn they tortured those animation people. Apparently, they overworked them and paid them not as much as they should have. And the movie just came out like a big piece of shit because the stars and the writers just didn't give a fuck about the actual
It's
product.
so bad.
Mhm.
Yeah, that case is way more annoying to me.
Yeah, it really. It's very, very rare that my experience of an art form is going to be influenced by that type of thing. I think it's more common for music for me because what they're selling is it's supposed to be some sort of like honest reflection. And if the veil is lifted and, you know, if what they're selling is kind of like contradictory to who they are as a person, it's like, okay, well, I don't believe this anymore. I don't believe what you're saying in this song, you know?
Mhm.
So that can have an impact. But, you know, a fictional narrative is something entirely different.
It could affect the outcome of the movie too.
Yeah.
Like if everyone's arguing on set and there's like controversy, like I guess with Fantastic Four, then the movie's just going to come out bad. It's just gonna come out bad and this-
Classic novel before whatever year, you know, probably written by a bunch of homophobes, if we're going to be honest, you know, like there's
Yeah,
you can't just throw away everything, I don't think. You can still appreciate things even if people are terrible.
Yeah, okay.
Wow. Okay. It's deep.
We have two questions from different people that can just go into each other because the first one
Okay.
is just for Ralph, but I think people would appreciate his brief thoughts on this from the corniest Lima, who asks, Ralph, what do you think of Mr. Robot Season 4 so far? The people must know.
Ooh, well, I want to stay silent on it.
Just
because
how
I'm making
about
a
that?
video.
Are you enjoying it?
But I am really enjoying it. I'm saying silent because there's an episode that recently came out that was all no dialogue. Like there was no dialogue in the episode. It was a silent episode, and that was phenomenal. How they were able
sounds
to pull that
interesting.
off. And there's like, yeah, there's really impressive like technical things going on, and the score in that episode was incredible. But like overall, it's it hasn't won me over completely yet because it's doing something very different. It's more of it's goofier and it's more like a Christmas. Every character is like dealing with their demons in a Christmas themed like special.
Weird.
It's very bizarre. Yes. So it is like very sentimental and corny, but it works because it's Christmas. And there's also this hacker plot going on, and the actual story has gotten so insane that it's like some fucking Illuminati level shit is going on, and Elliot needs to stop it. So it is pretty good so far. I want to see where it goes. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think people appreciate that. And to expand on this TV sort of theme, Naju34 asks, do you think it's possible for TV shows to overtake bigger budget movies in the future, as in they reach a point in which they are equal or superior in quality?
It's already happening.
Replace them.
Yeah. I mean,
you
you can choose
The
examples.
Irishman was incredible.
But that's not it.
Yeah. It's a Netflix movie coming out.
Yeah, but that's...
Netflix
we were talking
made it.
about
I guess,
shows, though, right? Like miniseries?
Yeah, I guess. I guess I was thinking more like streaming, you know? Just like
No.
these studios are not going to be the big boys in town anymore. You're going to be able to watch great movies and series, just big budget, on Amazon or Netflix. They're making a Lord of the Rings show right now.
Yeah.
That costs $500 million
Yeah.
on Amazon.
Yeah, and
that's going to be
that
fucking
Witcher show
crazy.
as well.
Yeah, a
The
Witcher
show's
show.
coming out. That's like a big fantasy thing.
There is
just
no
recently,
film that costs that much money, so I'm really looking forward to what they're going to
so
do.
am I. It's a fascinating, because when it can be done right, I find it more satisfying, just in terms of like, you can have way more in-depth plots, you can have much more character development. There's a lot you can do in a season of a TV show, and with the production, like, it is catching up to the point where you have, like I've mentioned it a couple of times in the last few episodes, but that like Dark Crystal Netflix show, like the production on that was so impressive to me.
Yeah.
I can't. It looked so expensive. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah,
And
it
then
looked better than Dr.
for
Sleep.
more like, yeah, exactly. But I was blown away by that show in particular. But then if you are looking for more like serious, dramatic things, you have like Mindhunter. There's you got Mr. Robot. There's so much choice, and so much of it is excellent and a lot better in a lot of ways than some of the films. A lot of the films that are coming out, especially when we're seeing the Disneyfication of everything, and that those kinds of smaller stories now they've been pushed into a different space somewhat, and they're really able to be explored, because we're right in the middle of these streaming wars, and there's just so much money being pumped into all these like creators, so you do get like some of this wacky stuff that you wouldn't see on the big screen kind of being explored to the same quality or even better on places like Netflix.
It's just a different format.
The technology's gotten so good now.
It's just a different structure.
Film these, you can film these epic things, and it looks, excellent, because our technology's capable of it now. The cameras at this point, like digital, looks just as good as film if you color correct it right. So there's no excuse. You could do fucking anything on television now, and that's not the way it was 15 years ago. We were very limited.
Just
in
HBO.
that, so it's exciting. Yeah, HBO, and you would have to pump tons of money into that shit.
Yeah.
Even your latest project, Ralph, spans multiple episodes.
Golden Hour, 3 episodes, and we made it for $7,000.
Nice.
Because it's like it's not a testament to me. It's a testament to all of us and the technology, that you can just do something like shoot it all on the street, and it looks good, and you don't have to spend much money on it to get it to look good, because it's just gotten to that point.
It's an exciting time,
Yeah, there will be a point like 15, 20 years down the road where independent creators will just be able to make like these like big budget movie quality stuff with no money, because like the Ronins will just get that good, and like the lenses will get that good.
We're using the GH5?
Yeah. GH5S.
Okay.
Yeah, which is like $2,000, right? The body. You have to get lenses too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Exactly.
Like there's anyone can do that. You could just go make a show and put it on YouTube right now for $5,000.
Yeah.
That's great. You couldn't do that 10 years ago.
Yeah. Making a
Or 15 years
no
ago.
budget music
And make it
video.
look as good.
Looks pretty good so far.
Yeah. Excellent.
A lot of tedious editing, but yeah, I think we're pretty much at that point where, the television series and films are comparable. There's great and bad examples of both. So,
Game of Thrones, I think, was groundbreaking in that. Just the scale of it. The writing went to shit, but it really is impressive to see the scale of like the sets and how many extras and characters there are in it, and the big battles.
It was more impressive than a lot of fantasy in cinema in the last few years.
Yeah.
Just on a
100%.
production standpoint.
And you also were way more invested in those characters. So when those battles did happen, it's like movie quality battles with that character development of television, that slow burn, like you said. and it's really satisfying. People are really engaged in that shit. Not in the same way as they are in movies now.
All right, one more question.
Yeah.
Okay, let's end with this one then from BDog7171. You boys have expressed your distaste for tonal shifts within films many times, so I'm interested to know if you can think of any examples of an effective shift in tone, atmosphere, or even style within a film. Thanks, Sardonicast. What?
Yeah, any Korean movie, really. like Thirst.
You're right.
Kind of
Parasite.
as well.
Parasite did an
doing
excellent
that shit,
job
yeah.
with that.
The only when I get bothered by tonal shifts, it's not like, oh, it's attempting more than one tone. It's just when it's either contradictory or just plain doesn't work, or when one of them is done great and the other's done poorly. You know, it just has to.
Sometimes
it has
it's
to be
not
effective,
purposeful. It's
right?
just it just feels like in the editing room someone didn't know what they were doing. So there's like these comedy moments mixed with serious shit. I feel like most of the time it's just an accident. I'll look at my letterbox list. What were you saying, Alex? You said one.
Danny Boyle has a lot of films that do this. 28 Days Later is kind of a zombie movie for most of it, and then it turns into like more of a thriller at the end with the army camp or whatever it is. And
Sunshine.
the same with Sunshine, yeah, that does almost the inverse. It's like a sci-fi thriller, and then it sort of turns into horror. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember that happening. And I'm sure there are a few more in his library. He's got some quite good examples of it.
Yeah, as long as everything's done well, and tonal shift isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, I guess the most common thing that makes these shifts kind of fall on their face is often when humor is interjected, and it's like really doesn't work if the comedy
that's the
doesn't
thing.
land.
Is
That's the most
Korean
common
movies
one.
do that really, really well. It doesn't take
That's a good
away
point,
from the
yeah.
dramatic, serious elements at all, even to have those comedic
How
ones
do
there.
they do that?
It's
What do you
just
think it
well
is?
presented and well written, you know? Like I think that if comedy winds up taking away from the more serious elements of a movie, either it's because the comedy is just poorly written and it doesn't work and it just makes you hate the movie, or the serious elements weren't all that amazing to begin with anyway. If all it takes is, you know, a different tone in other parts of the film to make you not take the whole thing seriously anymore. It really depends on how it's done.
I think David Lynch does it well, balancing the comedy and the serious stuff. I think like all of his movies do that, but like Lost Highway, I think that's probably the best one, which literally becomes like a different movie halfway through. It focuses on two totally different characters, like an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was really interesting, and it made sense. So it depends. Depends who's doing it.
Oh yeah, I'm with you.
I'm trying to think of more examples. The Death of Dick Long is
it's the
surprisingly
kind of thing-
dark, but
Yeah.
is
see
really, really
it, actually.
funny, in my opinion. What are you saying, Alex?
Yeah, it's the type of thing like you notice in the moment, but it's hard to even recall like specific
Yeah.
examples.
All right.
Yeah, leave your best in the comments. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking through a list now, trying to find more. I just fell back on David Lynch as usual.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, he does the best.
All right. That's it for question time. So I believe Ralph has a recommendation for us.
That's right. Is it for? Are we having the guest on next
Yes.
episode, or is this okay? So yeah, all right. So I'm gonna recommend a movie from 1970, I believe, for another Nicholas Roeg movie who directed Don't Look Now. It's called Performance, and Mick Jagger's in it. It's a crime musical avant-garde film. It's
Is it really
psychedelic.
weird?
It's considered one of the best films to come out of UK
Okay.
of the century. So
Interesting.
it is an iconic film. At first it was shunned because no one liked it, but it has gained a following. So it's
How
definitely
easy
going
is
to
it to
incite.
find?
It's pretty easy, I think.
It's
I own it, but I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah, it's on iTunes and Amazon in the US.
Oh, brilliant.
And I guess if
Okay,
it's like
great.
a UK film, I'd be surprised to find out it wasn't available in the UK, but you never know.
Yeah,
Could
you never know.
happen. All right. If you don't want to be spoiled for Performance 1970, make sure to watch it before the next episode. Next episode, we'll be having a special guest, somebody who's been requested a few times. Super Mario 2. Donkey. We got Donkey. We already made a Donkey reference earlier in this podcast.
Yeah.
Very quotable. Very excited.
Halo 3, baby.
Yeah,
I'm just curious to hear what he has to say about performance.
Yeah. I don't know what movie I'm
it's
in
definitely,
for.
and it will incite discussion.
Okay.
I'm excited.
If you want to support the show, Sardonicast.com. Sign up for premium, $2 a month. We'll get you these episodes early when they're edited. Also, patreon.com/Sardonicast. Same thing. Also, we got merch. Thank you all for listening to this episode.
Yeah, thank you.
And
thanks, everybody.
get hyped for Donkey hype next episode.
In the meantime, let's recharge because we're all a bit brain dead.
I'm fucking. I'm gonna either get sleep before the next episode or have a Red Bull. It won't be the day after my Sunday stream next time though. I was playing Death Stranding and Untitled Goose Game.
Oh,
Connecting all those strands. Nice.
Yeah, I was trying to 100% the Goose Game, and I did. But I was up pretty late doing it.
Takes like 2 hours, doesn't it?
Well, it's 2 hours on the main story, and then another, like, I guess, 3 or so if you want 100% it. But anyway, thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.
See you, everybody.